So I'm here to tell you about a letter that I wished I sent to the world leaders and decision makers 20 years ago. I know what it feels like to fear for your life because I experienced it myself when I sailed across the Atlantic to the Caribbean with my then life partner Adam and his 5-year-old son Dante. It's a horrible, horrible feeling. It's a primal fear. And the worst part of it is that you can't do anything about it. You feel hopeless because the situation is totally out of your hands. You can't do anything about it except trying to survive. But right now, there's a lot of people fearing for their lives. They're experiencing fires, drought, hurricanes, and storms. It feels like that there's no sane leaders steering this earth ship that we're on. So what does this have to do with a letter that I wish I sent 20 years ago to the world leaders and decision makers? Well, if they could see now with their own eyes what we are experiencing now, because of their inaction then, maybe we could do something about it. Maybe they would have done something different. All the signs then were already saying that this would happen. We were warning them about the effects of climate change and what would happen if they didn't act now. How it would turn into more and more severe storms, fires and drought, and so on. If they could have just seen it, maybe they would have changed something. Especially now, if they would have understood how expensive it would be to wait and how many lives that would be lost. Or how many lives that could be saved. But now, it's everyday news, and we've just gotten used to it. This is the new normal. A thing we know now, but didn't talk about then so much, is how deeply connected climate change is to resource use and what we produce, how we consume things. A thing we know now is that it's between 40 and 70% of the global carbon emission is connected to how we consume and produce things. And I would say we should move into a more resource-efficient economy, or what I would call a circular economy, to fix this, instead of the linear, unsustainable take, make, waste economy that we currently have. During the time of this presentation, around 1.8 million tons of resources are extracted from the ground. In a year, on a global scale, we extract 100 billion tons of material out of the ground. Hundreds of thousands of tons of iron, gold, copper, silver, aluminum, oil, just to mention a few. And we keep extracting more and more each year. At the same time, we're wasting precious resources that could be worth as much as $25 trillion by 2050, according to Accenture. $25 trillion. And less than 90% of these resources that we extract are circulated back into the economy again after one use. Which means that we're wasting away more than 90% of these enormous resources. And a lot of the gold that we need, for instance, for the renewable energy transition is in our electronic waste dumps. The amount of minerals and materials extracted during the time of this presentation equates to about 70,000 Volkswagen Beetle cars. 70,000. And at the same time, we will produce and sell hundreds of thousands of pairs of shoes, refrigerators, phones, water bottles, and so on. This also means enormous amount of shipping, air freight, trains, truck deliveries, and so on. enormous amount of carbon emissions. But so far, we don't have a resource problem on the planet. We have a greed and distribution problem on the planet. We so far have enough resources to go around, and more if we wanted to. There is enough if we stop wasting the resources we have. But just now, 1% of the global population owns more financial resources than 95% of the population. This is insane greed. We could be all living, thriving lives right now if we all instead collaborated and shared those resources more equally. The definition of the word economy means careful management of our available resources. It's not about profit. So when did we forget this? The beautiful thing about a resource-efficient circular economy is even if you don't care about climate change or drought or storms or any of this, you might care about money. And being smart with money, economizing, is something all leaders should be aware of. This is also usually the core of smart business. But right now there's a war on resources going on. This is not something new. It's happened again and again through history. The peaceful times are when we collaborate and open trade routes. And times of conflict happens when someone gets greedy and wants more of their fair share of the resources, like now. Since we're over-consuming and wasting so much of the resources, we'll eventually be running out of them, especially the precious ones that we need for technology and the renewable energy transition. Things like copper, silver, gold, just to mention a few. We, for instance, have only 100 years of copper left. Old gas or petrol cars used to have about 12 kilos of copper in them, but an electric car has about 200 kilos of copper in them. And we have already reached peak copper, which means that when we build new copper mines, we get less and less of copper out of the ground and more waste. So where will the copper come from? We really need to start prioritizing the way we use the materials and really use them where they're best used. And of course, we need to share the resources we have, like cars, for instance. We cannot consume our way out of a climate crisis. We cannot change all the old petrol cars and buy electric cars and think that we fixed the problem. It doesn't work like that. In my letter, I would also write, please stop with everything that makes climate change worse and do it now before it's too late. But now it's 2025 and we're still pumping more oil out of the ground than ever before in the middle of a climate crisis. At the same time as our houses are on fire, being blown away by hurricanes or being washed away by floods. So what are we thinking? And we're still subsidizing the oil industry much more than the renewable energy transition. And that's the thing that we need to fix this. It's our taxpayer money that goes to destabilizing our own climate. Enough. And at the same time, we're all drowning in stuff we don't need and doesn't make us happier. In a general Nordic household, and we're in the Nordics right now, we have between 10 and 50,000 items in our households. In a general American household, they have around 300,000 things. Can you even tell me what those things are and why you bought them? Cars are used about 5% of the time. They're just standing still, taking up valuable space in parking lots. 50% of all the plastic items we make are just for single use. 60% of the clothing is landfilled or burned within a few years of them being produced. And 30% of all the food that we produce and grow are thrown away. Well, so now our cellars and closets are full with things that we don't really know what we have. And we are so stressed out because we need to clear them out all the time. What if we didn't do this from the beginning? So, it's enough now. We need to stop consuming so much. But here we are again. We're consuming the planet to death and building new walls and borders, all in the name of greed. Today, you're choosing if you're on the wrong side or the right side of history. I, for one, don't want to make the problem worse and want more people fearing for their lives in the future, where we could all live happy, thriving lives instead, in harmony with nature and our neighbors. The question is, what kind of future do you, the decision makers and people in power, work to achieve? Well, now it's too late to send the letter I wish I'd sent 20 years ago. But we can still do something about this so fewer people need to fear for their lives. Now, when we know that there's enough for us all and that we can economize, we can start by doing more with less and share the resources we have instead. This means that the decision makers need to start mapping and prioritizing the use of the resources we have, especially the critical materials that we have and are needed for the renewable energy transition. They need to figure out where the materials do the most good. You need to legislate according to reality, be leaders that act according to what's scientifically doable, and take only your fair share of the available resources. If you're a business leader, look at your business and see if your company is a part of the problem or part of the solution. Are you using more of the resources or creating waste? Can you change your business model to become more resource efficient, circular, and instead using services, sell services instead of selling stuff? Set measurable circular economy targets and work very hard to achieve them. If you're an investor, start investing in companies that have circular or resource efficient business models. There are more and more of circular companies started every day. And students, many of you here, and people of the world, vote, organize, and be the change you want to see. Be on the right side of history. Because now we can see what consumer power can really do if we just stop buying a certain electric car brand. Show the leaders that enough is enough. So what do I do myself? Well, I run one of the oldest circular economy business networks in the world. I teach my member companies every day about resource efficiency, circular business models, and how to become more resource efficient companies. I lecture all around the world for presidents, ministers, business leaders, and anyone that will listen about the benefits of an economy that benefits all. And of course, I try to live as I learn. And I work every day to encourage the world leaders and decision makers to become the leaders that we deserve. My former life partner, Adam, that I sailed half around the world with, also fought for a better and sustainable future. Renovating old buildings instead of building new, building solar farms and big batteries, large-scale batteries for renewable energy storage. He's sadly not with us anymore to see the changes that he wanted to see. But I keep fighting for his sons, Dante and Otis' future. And I'm fighting very hard to create the future where we have an economy where we have enough for everybody. This is for you, Adam. Thank you.